Going back quite a long time, I remember being gaslit by someone. And here's the thing, the first few times it happens to you, you don't even know what it is. It just feels like an argument. You know you're right. You know what they're saying is not true. But you assume the other person genuinely believes the opposite. So you go around in circles trying to convince them of something you both actually lived through. And that confusion, that frustration, that's the whole point. I remember thinking, am I actually losing my mind here? Because they were so certain, so calm, so sure it happened differently to how I knew it did. And the scarier part of me started to wonder if they were right. Fast forward to today, that person no longer has any power over me. Not because I got lucky, not because I just walked away, but because I learned to recognize exactly what was happening in real time. I can now tell the difference between a genuine mistake, a misunderstanding, and someone deliberately bending reality to make me question myself. And once you can tell the difference, it loses all of its power. All of it. There is a key to this, and I'm going to share it with you today so that you never get gaslit ever again. Hi, my name's Brandon. For those of you who don't know me, I share my personal insights on relationships and narcissistic abuse. Over 1.5 million people follow my content across all of my social channels. And if you're new here, then welcome. I'm glad you found this video today. So let's jump straight in. The very first thing we need to do is make sure we're all on the same page about what gaslighting actually is, because a lot of people confuse it with lying, and they're not the same thing. Here's a simple way to think about it. A lie is when someone knows the truth and tells you something different. They're covering something up, protecting themselves, straightforward dishonesty. A mistake or a misunderstanding is when someone genuinely remembers something differently to how it happened. Memory is imperfect. People get things wrong, and that's human. Gaslighting is something else entirely. Gaslighting is when someone knowingly distorts reality, not just to lie to you, but specifically to make you doubt your own perception of events. The goal isn't to win an argument. The goal is to make you question your mind, your own memory, and your sanity. The person gaslighting you isn't confused. They're not forgetful. They know exactly what happened, but they want you to believe you've got it wrong. Because if you're questioning yourself, then you're not questioning them. That's the key distinction. A lie is about the information. Gaslighting is about dismantling your confidence in your own reality. And that is why it is so much more damaging than a simple lie, because it doesn't just mislead you, it makes you stop trusting yourself. Now that we understand what gaslighting is, let's look at how you actually tell if it's happening to you. Because in the moment, it can be incredibly hard to separate. And then after that, I'm going to show you exactly how to respond so they know without any doubt that it will never work on you again. And before I get into that, let me just give you a quick word from today's sponsor, and that's me. Back in 2021, I founded an app called Clear Minds. It's a hypnotherapy-based app with hundreds of sessions covering everything from mental health and well-being to weight loss, quitting bad habits, and my personal favourite, we have an entire category dedicated to recovering from narcissistic abuse. Because I built it partly for situations exactly like this one that I'm talking about today. Over 1 million people have used Clear Minds, and I want you to try it. So I've set up a page on the website where you can get full access completely free for 7 days. If you love it, brilliant. You can keep it and it works out less than the price of a coffee a week. If it's not for you, cancel anytime, no hard feelings. Just let me know and I'll work on making it better. The link for this free trial is in the description below. Let's get back to it. This is where it's going to get very interesting. And honestly, this is the bit that changed everything for me. There are a few specific patterns that separate gaslighting from genuine confusion. And once you see them, you can't unsee them. The first is consistency. When someone genuinely misremembers something, their version of events tends to shift slightly when you start to provide detail. They might say, oh, actually, yeah, you're right. Or, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. Someone gaslighting you doesn't do that. They double down. Every time, the more evidence you bring, the more certain they seem. Second, the target. When someone genuinely makes a mistake, the correction is about the facts. When someone is gaslighting you, the correction somehow always becomes about you. You're too sensitive. You always do this. You remember it wrong because you're in a bad mood that day. The conversation shifts from what happened to what's wrong with you. And that's not a coincidence at all. The third is how it makes you feel. And this is probably the most important. After a genuine disagreement where someone got something wrong, you might feel frustrated, but you still feel like yourself. After a gaslighting conversation, you feel confused, foggy, like you can't trust your own thoughts. You walk away smaller than you walked in. That feeling is important. Pay attention to it. And here's what I want you to really think about. Gaslighting is more effective on people with high levels of empathy because you're naturally inclined to consider the other person's perspective. You're open to being wrong. That's actually a beautiful quality. And what they're doing is weaponizing it. So you might think, why do people do this? Usually it comes down to one of two things. Control or self-preservation. Control, some people gaslight because it keeps you off balance. If you're constantly questioning yourself, you're easier to manage. You defer more, you push back less. It's a power move that they're disguising in day-to-day conversations. Self-preservation, some people gaslight because facing the truth about their behaviour is too uncomfortable. It's easier to rewrite history than to take accountability for what they did. Either way, here's the thing. They don't want you to know. The moment you stop engaging with the content of what they're saying and start simply observing the pattern, the gaslighting will stop working, because gaslighting only works if you're trying to convince them of the truth. The second you let go of that need, they have nothing. So the reversal is the stop. It's just to stop arguing the facts. Instead, calmly name what you're observing. I notice that every time I bring this up, somehow the conversation is up about me. That's it. No accusation, no drama, just calm, clear observation. Watch how they respond to that. It tells you everything you need to know about their intention. Now let's talk about the response, because this is where most people get really confused. When you're being gaslit, everything in you wants to fight back, to prove you're right, to make them see it. And I understand that because I've been there. But that reaction is exactly what they're counting on, because an emotional reaction gives them ammunition. See, you're being irrational, they'll say. So here's what you should do instead. Get grounded first. Before you say anything, take a breath. Not because you need to calm down, but because you need to come back to yourself, back to what you know to be true. That internal anchor is everything. Speak slowly and quietly, not because you're backing down, but because calm authority is far more powerful than shouting. The person who stays grounded in an interaction will hold all the power. Don't over-explain. You don't need to present evidence. You don't need to build a case. A simple, "That's not how I remember it," said calmly and left there, is more powerful than a 10-minute argument. And here's the most important thing. You do not need them to admit it. I know that's a hard thing to hear, but waiting for someone that's a gaslighter to say, "You're right, I was trying to manipulate you," is like waiting for snow in July. It might happen, but don't hold your breath. Your goal is not their confession. Your goal is your own clarity. Know what happened, trust it, and don't hand anyone the power to take that from you. So now, practical steps, because it depends on who's doing it and what kind of relationship you're in. If it's a partner, the first conversation needs to happen outside of a heated moment. Tell them calmly and clearly that you've noticed a pattern and that you won't be engaging with conversation that go in circles without a resolution. And then follow through, because boundaries without consequences mean absolutely nothing. If it's a family member, this one's harder because of the history and the love involved, but the same principles apply. You can love someone and still refuse to participate in dynamics that leave you feeling like you're losing your mind. You're allowed to leave the room. You're allowed to say, "I'm not continuing this conversation right now." If it's a friend, distance is often the best answer in this case. Not always like a dramatic exit, but creating a space enough to pay attention to how they make you feel. If you constantly feel smaller, more confused, more anxious, then it's not a real friendship, or it's not a good one. They're draining your energy. If it's a colleague or a boss, document everything. Emails, messages, notes after meetings, not because you want to build a case, but because when you have a written record, you can't be talked out of your own reality. The paper trail is going to be your anchor in this case. And in every single situation, keep checking in with yourself. Journal, if that helps. Talk to someone that you trust. The antidote to gaslighting is staying connected to your own inner voice. The louder and clearer that voice gets, the less room there is for anyone else's narrative. If you want to learn more about this and the other topics I cover, subscribe to my channel. I put up new videos every week covering things that will genuinely help you grow, heal, and become the best version of yourself. You can also go and binge through my other videos and let me know in the comments which ones helped you most. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again next week. And maybe I'll do another one in my garden. Take care.